I've talked about route planning before, but this is more about personal route planning, because sometimes it's more than just getting from A to B. There's a few things you need to know. Route planning is one of those things that I've talked about before, but this is going to be more on the personal level. Which way is going to be the path of least resistance, and which way is going to be the quickest? I got thinking about this the other day when I was presented, and this happened a couple times this week, like 2 or 3 different options to get to my destination. And the mileage was just within about 15 or 20 miles apart from each one. But not only was that, the longer route and the shortest route were identical in time. So I got thinking about that and what you can do and why you should pick one route over the other. And it came down to, a lot of it just comes down to timing. So what do I mean about timing? Well, what time are you going to be there, personally? Some of these loads get picked up pretty late. Some, certain routes, it's better to go one way than the other because of, just sheer places to park. Are you going to have to park that night? Are you going all the way through? How's traffic going to be? Is traffic going to be light? Traffic going to be heavy? Do you want to be on the interstate or do you want to be on the back road? And truthfully, sometimes, especially late at night, a lot of these back roads are a lot quicker and more direct than the interstate. Which ones? Well, that's up to you to find out, depending on your load. But I got thinking about this the other day, going down to Memphis from Worthington, Minnesota. Now, before we get started, let me explain that a lot of this is done on Google Earth. This is what a lot of people use to find time and distance and things of that nature. And your GPSs and stuff like that, Magellan's, Roadmates, whatever you want to call them, Rand McNally's. But a lot of guys just get on their phone, Google this, that, figure out the route. And while it does give you an accurate amount of mileage to a point, it is for a car. And Google Earth is not designed towards trucks, so you have to take that into account. Now, for instance, if you're coming out of York, Nebraska to Sioux City, it will always have you going up 77. It's about a 28-mile difference to go up the interstate. It's the exact same amount of time on Google Earth. And truthfully, in reality, it's quicker to stay on the interstate and spend those 28 extra minutes. Fly. Why is that? Well, it's for a car. And your truck is going to be running the same amount of time, but 77, as we know, has some stoplights, several towns to go through. It's 60 miles an hour, 60, 65, 55 through the when you get close to the towns, lots of stop and go, and there's a couple chances you're going to run into a train. So what is better? Well, a lot of times it all just depends on what you want. If you're in the middle of the night, you can make it up 77 pretty close to the time Google Earth says to go. During the day, if there's construction out there, which there's been a lot lately, you can add a half hour onto that easily. So in today's modern age, less miles does not mean less fuel. We're all about time these days. How fast can you turn this load? Yes, you are putting a few extra miles on, but your truck is working harder on the shorter route. Stop, go, up, down, 55, 65, this and that. There's no constant speed. So you're basically, the amount of fuel between the two is an absolute moot concept. So that's something you have to keep in mind. Which is going to get you the path of least resistance and which is going to be shorter. I have a fly to destroy. Ah. No, missed it. Now, truthfully, during the daytime, anything on Google Earth, you can add 15 to 30 minutes to just right off the bat. The interstate's a lot quicker. And it is about keeping your average up. I did a load. I left Holly Springs the other night, Mississippi, and shut down in Portage, Wisconsin, 739 miles. I did it legally. I was at the end of my clock. I averaged 67.13, I think, miles per hour. Doesn't sound like a lot, but keeping your average at 67 is actually a lot harder than you realize. And that's why you have to take these things into account. A 67 mile an hour average is a lot harder than you realize. So I was running between 70 and 72 the whole time, and with a couple of bursts here and there. But I also kept the left door shut. So now we talk about leaving later at night in the evening. So how does trip planning and route involve that? So as you progress in this business, you're going to start learning where things are. The old paper truck stop guides, like I showed you from the old school video, those were great because you could pick them up at a glance. You knew where you were. And if you went to these places quite a bit, you really could plan out your trip in advance. I do a lot of the same stuff a lot, which sometimes gets a little boring, but whatever, it pays good. So I know where a lot of things are. So the other night, I was faced with a dilemma. Do I come out of Worthington down 60 to 75, hit I-29 all the way down to Kansas City, and cut through the woods? Or do I go over to Albert Lee, go down 35, 18, 218, down 61, and go straight south to St. Louis, down 55? And either way, both end up coming together just outside of Truman, Arkansas. That's where 555 and the 5 come together, or in the 55 come together just north of Memphis there. So I'll show you. See, coming out of Worthington, going through Kansas City is 12 hours 33 minutes, and going through St. Louis is 12 hours 28 minutes. Now this is in a car, so what's the difference in miles? Well, it's 821 going through the woods, and it's 848 going, the other way. So which way do you go? Well, this is where proper trip planning comes into effect. I mean, it doesn't look like it would be a bad deal, but it's actually a lot more than you realize. So in something like that, within 20 miles in a few minutes in a semi-truck, it's actually a fairly moot point. The first thing you need to ask yourself is, how far can I get tonight? So if you're leaving fresh off the clock from Worthington going if you were leaving from Worthington, you would make it south of Kansas City, maybe to Ozoro on a good day. But you're doing it late at night, so is there going to be places to park? Because that's about as far as you're going to make it. Realistically, you'll make it just south of St. Louis. There's no place to park there. But if you stop north of St. Louis, there's quite a few places to park. Now, do you have the time to stop? That's one thing you have to ask yourself. Now, if you go down through Kansas City and you have a fresh clock, chances are you can make it to maybe Willow Springs, and you get there about 4 in the morning. Now, do you want to drive that late? Are you only going to drive? See, I didn't want to drive that late. I shut down about 2 o'clock. But I left Sioux Falls, and I had a whole bunch of other things happening that day. So I said, do I go this way or do I go this way? Well, I knew that going through Kansas City down towards that way, one, was going to put me right in evening rush hour if I went that way. But two, there was going to be no place to park till I got way south of Harrisonville. And so I didn't want to drive that far, because there's really, that way there's not that many places to park, and there are, but they fill up quick if you know where they're at. The other way, I knew that there was a lot more places to park, because trucking's a whole lot more prevalent down through Waterloo and all that way, going straight down between St. Louis and basically Minneapolis. That's a main route going up 61, 63, 380, all that. So I went down through Waterloo, and sure enough, about 1:30 in the morning, I found me a nice place to park and had a nice night. But that put me leaving at 11:30. So from there, I had to book it, and I made it to St. Louis about 4 o'clock, and it was wonderful. Years ago, I remember getting in a discussion with a guy about route. He wanted to do the pre-planned route on the Qualcomm. They were just starting crap like that then. We were still on paper. But I said, you know what? I said, I'm going to bust it this way. And I said, we were both leaving Garden City, Kansas. And we both ran up there, got to Great Bend, and he's like, you know, I'm taking 56 over like the route. I said, why? I said, I'm going to bust up 156, and I said, I'll be shutting down in Brooklyn, Iowa tonight. You know, they had that Pilot there, and they had that Quick Trip there. And the Quick Trip in the day is actually nice. I like that Quick Trip. So he sits there, and he's like, no, I'm going to do the route. It's shorter. So I did my route, went up, made it up to 80, busted it out. He goes all the way across 56 to 35, goes up to Des Moines and cuts across. I beat him there by 11 minutes. And I was in a 65 mile an hour truck. So, is really going through all those towns and stop and go and all that really worth, you know? I beat him by 11 minutes even though I went like 12 miles longer. It's these things are that you have to figure out yourself, and this is what comes with experience. Route planning is very important, but personal route planning is also very important. Like, you want to get groceries. Well, you start doing the same routes, you're going to figure out where you can stop to get groceries. When I know I'm going down to Georgia, like down to Cartersville, I always stop in Resaca at the Flying J. There's a Dollar General Market right around the corner. You can't see it because the trees are there, but it's literally a 3-minute walk. So there's that. You coming up through the woods, there's a Dollar General right next to the truck stop at the border in Thayer, just north of Mammoth Springs, Arkansas. Is that Mammoth Springs? Yeah, whatever, Springs, Arkansas. But they're in Thayer. And, you know, you go down to Holly, Mississippi, or Holly Springs, and there's a Walmart right across the street from the Loves. So you figure out where you need to go and what you need to do, and trip planning like this makes your life a lot easier. You know, if you're coming through like Lexington, you know, and you need to do your laundry, you know what? If you go park at that Walmart and that little strip mall next to it, there's a really nice laundromat there. You know, it's just about making your life as comfortable as you can, because we're out here doing a job. And don't get me wrong, I've been working nights, and I've really been trying to get back on days, yet for some reason I keep ending up back on nights. So the length of your trip, the duration, where you want to park, where you're going, there's about a half a dozen factors that are key. Just trying to figure it out on the way is never really a good idea, unless you can make it all the way into the customer and they allow you to park there. And that kind of thing is getting rarer and rarer. Like right now, I'm doing a 34. I'm picking up at the exact same spot I delivered at, yet they made me take a trailer out, because every truck has to take a trailer out, so I got to take a trailer back in. So when that happens, what do? Well, you got to find a place to park, but you can't bobtail, and bobtailing, you know, trying to find a place to park with a trailer is exponentially harder than just bobtailing. So these are the kind of things you have to plan for. Part of what I've been seeing lately is guys not planning. I've been seeing a lot of that lately. Not planning for anything. They just, you know, slide and ride. And, you know, figuring it out on the way kind of works, but you always want options, especially when it comes to parking. I wasn't sure if there would be any parking here. It's a Saturday, but it was getting late enough in the day. It turns out there was plenty of parking. Also had to go 20 miles out of route to get here because I get to the exit, it says no left-hand turns, and the truck stops are all on the left. So I turn around, coming back, the sign says no right-hand turns. And I about lost my, you know what? Luckily though, I just said I'll pull off the interstate, figure it out. If I got to go up a road, do a U-turn and back down the road, I will. Sure enough, it corkscrewed around and I had to take a left-hand turn. So thankfully, that worked out. But I mean, if you're running low on hours and you don't have time to be screwing around with this stuff, man, plan for that. Like I said in one of my last videos, a minute 24 seconds over my 11 got me 21 CSA points. It was very serious, guys. If you don't go over your book, whatever you do, don't go over your book. You need a plan for that. You know, lately I got within 3 minutes of it the other night, and I was just all nervous as heck because I knew if I got that close, I was going to pull on an off ramp and do the first post trip I've done in 15 years, just so I could do 15 miles an hour down the street and mosey on in. You know, it's that important that you plan your trips out because, like I've said before, the DOT's not playing, and just a minute or two over your book can be a really big deal. Something you need to keep in mind. That's why trip planning is important, but that's why personal trip planning is important too. That's also why I do this little thing. Now, I know a lot of guys, when you stop and get your shower and all that, you like to do it at the beginning of the day or like to do it at the end of the day. And that's good. But let me tell you something. If you can do it quick enough, like on your 30-minute break, you can really open up your possibilities for parking because you don't have to do that when you get shut down. I do that quite often just because I know where I'm going. I don't want to pay for a shower. Showers are expensive. I had the cleaning lady walk in on me today. She's like, well, it said it was flagged for cleaning on the computer. I said, you need to knock. Well, it was flagged for cleaning on the computer. I said, I don't give a damn what the computer said. You need to knock. You know, and she got really nasty with me and started arguing with me. And I'm thinking, lady, one of these days you're going to walk in on something you don't want to see. You know, shudder to think what people do in those showers, and that's why it's so important that they stay clean. She definitely was cleaning the showers. She was just kind of a little witch doing it. If you're cleaning the showers, you gotta knock, man, even if the computer says it. Anyhow, planning your day out like that is important. It will get you, you know, it'll get you a few more options at night. Now, trust me, I know guys like to shower at the end of the day and all that, but if you're running late, you know, later in the evening, you're not going to have places to park at the pilots or the J's or the TAs where you want to go. Especially at pilot and TAs, if you know it's pay to park, and those free spots are gone by 2 o'clock. And lately, the local guys are the ones clogging them up, not us over the road guys. So, you know, that's one of those things that you got to plan out. Now, don't get me wrong, you know, I like to park at those places just as much as anybody. I just don't like paying for showers. But it's expensive. So I know if you drive overnights like I have been, when you get shut down at 10 or 11, there's always a place to park. That's something to think about. If you do a lot of dropping and hooking and they're not really worried about what you're doing or what time you're running, especially during the summertime. I don't like driving nights in the winter, but the summer times, if you're heading out about 10 or 11 o'clock at night and you're getting shut down at 8 or 9 in the morning, you're going to miss the majority of rush hour depending on where you're going. And you're not going to have a problem finding a park because the majority, especially the TAs and the J's and all that, those free spots are going to be open. So that's just something to think about, a little food for thought. If you're doing a lot of dropping and hooking, it works. Now, the whole reason for this video was just about taking care of yourself. I say that a lot. We got to take care of ourselves out here. Ain't nobody else going to do it. You know, you want to have a nice place to stop. You want laundry. You want clean showers. You just want your little fortress of solitude. And you want to be stopped and not bother anybody, and you don't want anybody to bother you. That's a reasonable request. Part of why we've had such a hard time with parking lately is because in 2004, when they changed the rules, everybody tried to turn parking into tried to turn trucking into a 9-to-5 job. We have never recovered from the calamity of the rules change. Before, when you could do 5 hours on, 4 hours off, 5 hours on, a lot of guys would split their hours, and 100 to 125 spot truck stop could service 350, 400 trucks a day because they were constantly moving in and out. Now, by 5 o'clock, these guys are done. These places are just packed. And they tried to make trucking this 9-to-5 thing, and I could go into a whole thing on that about lobbyists and deregulation and how the big companies screwed everybody, you know, with e-logs and 11 hours on and 14, the 11 and 14 and all that. But that's fodder for another video. I'll just say this: we didn't need the hours change. What the lobbyists were basically trying to do was figure out a way to keep team drivers running 24 hours a day. 11, that's 22, so you got an hour here and an hour here. Between fueling and all that, they can eat that up quick. That's what they were wanting to do. They don't want that truck to stop. They want us to be machines. At least that's what they thought. That kind of backfired on them. But now that these truck stops fill up quick, sometimes you have to kind of figure out where you're going, what are your best hours. Also, what truck stops fill up. A lot of these no-name truck stops that are out in the middle of nowhere, some of them charge to park, some of them don't. There's a lot of little places and hidey holes that you'll find that are good places to park. Good restaurants and all that. And that's why I say, you know, you don't have to stick to the big chains if you don't want. If you got free showers and free coffee and all that, I get them on the showers and coffee. But the you know, if you can free up your options and really learn a few things and learn how to take care of yourself and where the things are that you need, because like I've said before, these truck stops are expensive and they're not carrying crap anymore. They're carrying just mainly junk food and BS for everything for the front door. They're not worried about the back door. So if you can figure all that out and figure out ways to get what you need done and take care of yourself, you're one step ahead. And taking care of yourself in a timely manner and all that, it's actually going to make you more money. One of these days I'll have to talk about that. But anyhow, I appreciate it. Thanks for watching, guys. Like I say, take care of yourself, be safe, and figure out a routine that works for you. See you next video.